As I mentioned in my previous video, the War of the Rohirrim and the Long Winter had left the kingdom of Rohan very weakened. Herds of horses and cattle were lost, and many lives had been cut short by cold and famine or by the blade of the savage Wildmen and eastern invaders. In these troubled days, the second line of kings began, with Fréaláf, nephew of the legendary King Helm Hammerhand. It was King Fréaláf together with Beren, the steward of Gondor, who welcomed the Wizard Saruman as the new warden of the Tower of Orthanc, and at first the kingdom benefited from his friendship. Fréaláf would be succeeded by his son, Britta, and his reign would begin as a prosperous one. He was called by his people Leofa, for he was loved by all. He was open-handed and a help to all the needy. Yet, though the hill tribesmen had been driven off for the time being, another threat arose, the Orcs of the White Mountains. In the final battle of the War of the Dwarves and Orcs, waged before the east gate of Moria, the Orc king Azog was slain, and his hordes were defeated. Of those foul creatures that survived that day, many fled southwards across Rohan, making secret strongholds in the nearby White Mountains. As the shadow of Sauron began to darken Middle-earth once more, the Orcs of the White Mountains reappeared. Carrying out their master's commands, they made incursions and harassed the people of Rohan. Britta moved to deal with the threat, and war began, as the Rohirrim hunted the marauding Orcs wherever they could be found. When Britta died, it was thought that they had all been hunted out, but it was not so. Britta was succeeded upon his death by Walda, who would rule for a mere 9 years. For as they journeyed on mountain paths from Dunharrow, King Walda and his companions were ambushed by Orcs and slain to the last man. Now Walda's son and heir, Folca, was a great huntsman, but upon the death of his father, he swore that he would pursue no wild beasts until all the Orcs of the White Mountains were wiped out. The king hounded the foul creatures who had claimed his father's life, seeking out their lairs and strongholds and destroying them one after another. Once the last den of Orcs was found and destroyed, Folca, having avenged Walda, set out to hunt the Boar of Everhold, a monstrous beast that haunted the Firian Wood on the border between Rohan and Gondor. Finally, the king closed in on his prey, but Folca's song of valor would end there. He slew the boar, but died of the tusk wounds that it gave him. The deeds of Britta and Folca ultimately ushered in the reign of Folcwine, the 14th king of Rohan, that would see the strength of the kingdom restored. Nonetheless, the days of Folcwine would be marked by their own hardships. The hill tribesmen had grown bold again and had occupied the west march of Rohan. But, with the help of Gondor, the king drove the Wildmen out and reclaimed the region. Folcwine felt that Rohan owed a great debt of gratitude, and time would soon come for him to repay it. Stirred up by the emissaries of Sauron, the nomadic Southrons renewed their hostilities against the men of Gondor and waged war upon them. With Mumakil beasts adorned with harnesses and red banners, the Haradrim crossed the river Poros and invaded the Gondorian province of Ithilien. When word reached him of this, King Folcwine sent many Rohirrim to reinforce the men of Gondor against the Haradrim. He wished to lead them himself, but was dissuaded, and his twin sons Folcred and Fastred, born 2858, went in his stead. Thanks to the bravery of Folkwine's twin sons, the Haradrim were defeated at the crossings of Poros. But it was a bittersweet victory, for Folcred and Fastred fell in battle side by side. Even with this great sacrifice, peace and prosperity in Rohan were not to last. Folkwine's third son, Fengel, was greedy of food and of gold, and had strife with his marshals and with his children. When he finally passed away, his son, Thengel, became the 16th king of Rohan. Thengel wedded the Gondorian noblewoman Morwen, who bore him 3 children, of which Théoden was the only son. It was during his reign that the kingdom became threatened by the union of the 2 towers. The Wizard Saruman recruited the Orcs of the Misty Mountains and the Hill tribesmen, mustering a great force for the service of his new master and for his own plans of domination. Thus, the enemies of Rohan soon began to encroach on the kingdom's borders. Raids by Orcs and Wildmen would only grow more frequent by the reign of Théoden king, and years leading to the War of the Ring. That's it for today, and as always, thank you for watching.